I hope all of you are online. Once again, good afternoon to all of you. My dear students, we will interact on the Sublime, which is written by Longinus. The idea of the Sublime was taken up by Immanuel Kant and Romantic poets too. The question arises, why are we learning this on the Sublime? What is the aim of learning this Sublime? What will it make? The essay on the Sublime is about Utkrasht, Sarvochta, sublimity within you. Can a person be sublime? You come across so many people in this world, someone you like by interaction. When somebody speaks and wants to say something, you feel from within. But sometimes you feel that some of your friends or the colleagues or you come across are not able to speak the way they are supposed to. When you feel that somebody should be with you, interact with you, and you feel very happy. After seeing that person, the gait of that person, the notions of that person, the ideas of that person, how he speaks, how he or she walks, how he or she interact, what is the idea, what is the notion, what is the thought of that an individual. So, my dear, this question, can a person be sublime? Yes. The person who is lofty, formal, grandiose, or having grandeur in style, noble, elevated, pure, perfect, ideal, every convey grand and noble thought and inevitable ideas like Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Lord Shiva, Mahalakshmi, Mahakali, Mahasaraswati, and John Milton, who has the majestic style, grandeur style, and who can feel, who can talk, who can interact with sublimity. So we can call that person a sublime. Now, these are the questions. What is Longinus' theory of on the sublime? Longinus, whatever you call, Longinus does by analyzing both strong and weak writing from works written over the previous 1,000 years. The goal, according to Longinus, is to achieve the sublime. In philosophy, the sublime is a quality of greatness. So, my dear students, you have to develop a personality which can convey the message to the world. You are the great dignity, great personalities of the nation, of Tirpura, of West Tirpura, of your family. So, Longinus does this by analyzing both strong and weak writing from works written over the previous 1,000 years. The goal, according to Longinus, is to achieve the sublime. You are the 6th semester students. After 6 months, you are going to be graduate. You may become IAS officers, IPS officers. You have to interact with your seniors. You have to talk with your friends. At the time, whenever you interact, whenever you make conversation with anybody, that conversation must be sublime. In philosophy, the sublime is a quality of greatness. It can be physical, it can be intellectual, it can be moral, aesthetic, spiritual, artistic, or metaphysical. What is sublime in romantics? Romantics, the sublime is a meeting of the subjective internal emotional and the objective external natural world. We allow our emotions to overwhelm our rationality as we experience and wonder of creation, because the sublime is emotional. Sublime is emotional. When you want to communicate to something, and you come to know automatically from the within. It is traditionally considered something one must experience alone. What is sublime look? In common use, sublime is an adjective meaning inspiring, grand, noble, excellent, and impressive. What does the sublime mean in literature? In common use, sublime is an adjective meaning inspiring, grand, excellent, or impressive. What does sublime mean in literature? The sublime in literature refers to use of language. The sublime in literature refers to use of language and description that excites thoughts and emotions beyond ordinary experience. These are some short questions which may come in examination too. What does the sublime mean in literature? The sublime in literature refers to use of language and description that excites thoughts and emotions beyond ordinary experience. The literary concept of sublime became important in the 18th century. How does Longinus define sublime? Longinus defines the literary sublime as excellence in language, the expression of a great spirit. महान विचार महान आत्माओं से ही निकलते हैं. महान मनुष्यों के द्वारा ही महान नोशंस निकलते हैं. The great words comes out from the great hearts. The great minds can speak the great thought. Longinus defines the literary sublime as excellence in language, the expression of a great spirit. If you are a mean spirit, if you are a mean personality or mean dignity, the grandeur oriented, style oriented, that noble thought cannot come. You cannot interact with noble thought, noble spirit. The power to provoke ecstasy. जब किसी को सुनने के बाद चिरानंद की स्थिति महसूस होती है, जब किसी से कुछ सीखने के बाद दिल में एक आनंद अनुभूति होती है, एक चिरानंद की अनुभूति होती है, so that sense is, that emotion is sublimity. Expression of a great spirit and the power to provoke ecstasy in one's readers, in one's students, is sublimity. Longinus holds that the goal of a writer should be to produce a form of ecstasy. Literature is to please the heart. Poetry pleases the heart. What is sublimity in poetry as discussed in the essay on the Sublime? The author defines sublimity in literature as the echo of greatness of spirit. Longinus defines sublimity in literature as echo of greatness of spirit. That is the moral and imaginative power of the writer that pervades his work. This is first instance in which greatness in literature is ascribed to qualities innate in the writer rather than his art. What are the five sources of sublimity as identified by Longinus? Number one, capacity for great thought and a firm grasp of ideas. Number two, inspired emotions and strong passion. Number three, figures of speech and a proper construction of figures. Number four, noble diction. Number five, the effect of dignity and elevation. Who first translated Longinus on the Sublime into English? William Smith translated the essay on the Sublime in 1739. Who came up with the Sublime? Edmund Burke with 1757 treatise. Now, my dear students, we will interact about some more questions later on. Let us see what the essay says or what this on the Sublime speaks. On the Sublime by Longinus, On the Sublime by Longinus is a work of literary criticism thought to date back to 1st century Rome. While the author is not definitely known, the Longinus or Pseudo Longinus is typically credited for the work. On the Sublime centers on aesthetics and benefits of strong writing. What is that? Benefits of strong writing. Tomorrow, some of you may choose the topic to be editor, chief editor, writer, or a journalist. How should be your language? What should be your language? What sense or the literary flavor you should put into that? On the Sublime centers on aesthetics and the benefits of strong writing. Longinus does this by analyzing both strong and weak writing from work written over the previous 1,000 years. The goal, according to Longinus, is to achieve the sublime in the philosophy. The sublime is a quality of greatness. It can be physical greatness, it can be intellectual greatness, it can be moral greatness, it can be aesthetic greatness, can be spiritual greatness, artistic greatness, or metaphysical greatness, or it can be physical, intellectual, moral, aesthetic, spiritual, artistic, or metaphysical greatness. Another quality of the sublime is that it cannot be calculated, imitated, or measured. On the Sublime is written in epistolary form. An epistolary work is usually written through letters. You already know. You have already studied about that. The color purple, where the Sally wrote 51 letters. Journal entries or combination of the two. There's a missing part of this treatise, the final part which reportedly handles the topic of public speaking. Longinus dedicated the work to one Posthumus Tarentinus, a public figure in ancient Rome known for being cultured. On the Sublime includes works by roughly 50 authors, including Homer, the famed blind poet of ancient Greek culture. Longinus also mentions Genesis, a book in Hebrew Bible, because of this many have assumed that Longinus was either knowledgeable about Jewish culture or possibly even a Hellenized, means Greek Jew. One of the Longinus' assertion is that in order for one's writing to reach the sublime, the writer must possess and exhibit what he refers to as moral excellence. Moral excellence. Literature molds the character. It develops social, moral, cultural, ethical values among the students. Every piece of creative work is full of human values. And if there's a moral excellence, it becomes the sublime. Longinus also mentions Genesis, a book in Hebrew Bible. Because of this, many have assumed that Longinus was either knowledgeable about Jewish culture or possibly even a Hellenized Jew. One of the Longinus' assertion is that in order of one's writing to reach the sublime, the writer must possess and exhibit. The writer must possess and exhibit what he refers to as moral excellence. Theories abound that Longinus avoided publishing his writings in order to preserve the modesty and therefore moral excellence. This might be another reason why the authorship of On the Sublime is uncertain. Another main point that Longinus makes is that a writer who transgresses social morals may not necessarily be a fool or shameless. For Longinus, social subjectivity is also important. He writes that in order to support spirit and hope, freedom is necessary. And you have already learnt about the Romanticism, where the liberty, freedom, and escapism, subjectivity, spontaneity, these are the qualities or the characteristics of those writers or those poets. Another main point that Longinus makes is that a writer who transgresses social morals may not necessarily be a fool or shameless. For Longinus, social subjectivity is also important. He writes that in order to support spirit and hope, freedom is necessary. That said, too much freedom can lead to a decline in eloquence, which, according to Longinus, which can hamper one's ability to write in the sublime. To go into sublimity in more depth, Longinus provides 5 sources that can be lead to this goal: great thought, noble diction, dignified word arrangement, strong emotions, and particular figures of speech or thoughts. The sublime also has a number of specific effects for which Longinus calls upon readers to reach. The loss of rationality, deep emotions, combined with pleasure and alienation. That alienation should lead to identifying the creative process in order to be considered sublime. Longinus simplifies these effects by stating that a strong writer will not focus on his own emotions or trying to convey emotions, but rather to cause the reader to feel, those emotions. In addition, Longinus admires genius in writing. What he does? My dear friends, Longinus admires genius in writing. He mentions specific writers in addition to Homer, including Sappho, Plato, and Aristophanes, who wrote the Frogs in 5th century. Longinus Longinus talks about these writers' ability to create the sublime by causing reader to feel pleasure. Longinus talks about these writers' ability to create the sublime by causing readers to feel pleasure. Other writers on his list are Apollonius of Rhodes and Theocritus for their sophisticated poetry. However, Longinus says they failed to measure up to classic writers like Homer because they lack the bravery. They lack the bravery. Bravery is necessary to take risk. So, what do they lack? They lack the bravery. And bravery is necessary to take risk, and taking risk is necessary to reach the sublime. You know very well, in tension also, we may be weak by fate and time, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Not to yield. They lack the bravery. Bravery is necessary to take risks, and taking risk is necessary to reach the sublime. After making his points about the sublime, Longinus laments the decline of the oratory arts. The reason for this is twofold. It comes from the absence of freedom as well as moral corruption. These two phenomena, Longinus reminds readers, damages the high spirit which creates the sublime. So, my dear friends, if you want to be a perfect writer with ABCRL, accuracy, brevity, clarity, relevance, and logic, you have to be brave. Because bravery is necessary to take risk. And taking risk is necessary to reach the sublime. So, to reach to the sublime, you must have the spirit to take risk. You should not mind. I was already a Kendriya Vidyalaya teacher working in Gujarat, Bhavnagar. Being a KB teacher, I would have been eating and earning. But I took risk to come to Tirupura. I became sublime. I am following sublime. I request all of you to be brave, bold, and powerful and touch the sky with the glory, sign in this whole world. Because Savdese Pujyate Raja, Vidwan Sarvatra Pujyante. After this few months, you will be very powerful, brave, bold personality, and you must shine in this world with your sublimity. You must not be coward, timid. You should not be dishonest. You must be honest, faithful, sincere, devoted, dedicated, brave, bold. And then you will not afraid of anything, anybody, because Rabindranath Tagore has clearly told, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free and the words comes out from the depth of truth into that heaven of freedom. Oh, my Father, let my countrymen awake. So, my dear friends, those who were earlier, what he says, they lack the bravery. Bravery is necessary to take risk, and taking risk is necessary to reach the sublime. After making his points about the sublime, Longinus laments the decline of oratory arts. The reason for this is twofold. It comes from the absence of freedom as well as moral corruption. These two phenomena, Longinus reminds readers, damages the high spirit which creates the sublime.